I was getting ready for work. I walked out of the shower and I felt a sharp pain in my abdomen, like almost like somebody had stabbed me with a knife. You know, I felt a little
Wow.
ill. I didn't want to tell them everything that was going on, right?
All right, so I have the Sharinda Williams-Simmons on the show with us. She is known as the PTO Nomad, and she is a travel professional, a media personality, content creator, digital media strategist with over 10 years of experience working in corporate America. You've seen her work, and now we're chatting. I'm super happy to have you here. How are you, Sharinda?
I'm doing good. I mean, battling this whole like pollen here in Atlanta, but I'm pushing through, trying to be cute
Good.
while battling pollen. That's what I'm dealing
You
with.
listen. You are very cute. Okay, you are doing it. You're winning the battle.
Thank you.
Okay. So what I've been trying to incorporate into the podcast is that the beginning of the conversation is to ask my guests how are they doing PMS, so physically, mentally, and spiritually, because I really want the audience and us just to get used to really checking in with ourselves. So how
hmm
are you feeling right now in this moment? PMS, so physically, mentally, and spiritually.
So physically, like I said, just battling through this pollen, but happy and feeling blessed to be able to be here and be on this podcast. I thank you so much for inviting me. I feel honored to
Of
be
course.
here, and I love what you do as well. I wanted to love back into you too. But physically, I am happy to be just moving. I've been bedridden for like probably about 4 months. So just
Wow.
happy to be moving around and
Yeah,
in and out and just moving. Movement is a blessing
I
for
get
me
it.
right now. Mentally going into a different season in my life, hit 5 years in my marriage, and also just I feel a big transition in my life of a lot of visibility, and it's been very different. So mentally, I am trying to balance out the new and making sure that I don't go into fight or flight mode with all the new things that
Mm.
are happening, but
Hmm.
also enjoying the good that comes with being able to meet new people and be exposed to new things and new experiences.
Hmm.
And what was the other one?
Spiritually, yes,
See, girl, I'm
spiritually.
neurodivergent, so I need my list. Okay, so spiritually, oh yes, spiritually, I've been fasting a lot, and it's been helping me with a lot of focus. Focus has not been the strongest point for me, and so spiritually, um, I've been speaking to God about alignment and focus, and also being a good steward of the opportunities He's given me. And I got, I'm getting so many great revelations in being intentional about spending time with God right when I wake up, right when my consciousness is at a point where it's more open, logic hasn't
Hmm.
sat in, and that's been changing my entire day. If I don't start that way, my day seems off. So spiritually, I feel as though I've been spiritually, I feel as though I've been growing and learning how to adapt and invite God into my day.
I love that. It's a really good reminder for me because I told myself months ago that this year I'm going to start fasting. My grandmother, as for as long as I can remember, she would fast every Wednesday. That was
Oh
just
wow,
her natural.
she a good
She would
woman.
fast.
Good woman.
Yes, okay, a praying woman.
Okay.
She was she would spend that day. She would wake up earlier than usual,
Mm,
pray, get the day started, and then she wouldn't break her fast till maybe around dinner time. And that's just how
okay.
she did things. And I asked her why, and she said it's to, bring her clarity
Mm.
and discernment. And essentially what you've been mentioning. And I said I was going to do that, and I haven't done it. And just listening to you was a reminder that, girl, let's do that.
Baby
Um,
steps, baby steps.
mhm.
Honestly, even if
Yeah,
it's just an hour, like that you can
yeah,
set aside, like for
yeah.
that. I mean, give yourself grace because you're
Yeah,
doing so much stuff. But I'm glad to encourage
we
you.
No, of course. Speaking of doing so much stuff, I've been watching you on social media. You have been all over the place this year. I'm super proud, super excited for you.
Thank
And you
you.
mentioned, just you don't want to be in that like fight or flight because of the new experiences. Speaking of, I kind of want to touch on if you can talk about it.
Sure.
I saw that there was something I think with National Geographic. Is that right? Nat Geo.
Yeah. So basically, with Nat Geo, I was at South by Southwest, and I am a media host. So I've always been in media. I used to be a news reporter, turned into like show host, and now I am doing more of the digital media type of hosting. But I've always been. I go to South by Southwest to learn more about different topics that I may not be the most skilled in or that I just want to learn about or hone my craft. And I went to South by Southwest, and National Geographic just so happened to be there at a panel that I went to. One of my most favorite not video, sorry, one of my most favorite documentarians was on the panel. She's a Black woman. She does a lot of work with Nat Geo. And I asked her a question about how do you balance creating very distinct narratives that are for a certain type of people for the masses. And
Hmm.
supposedly that was an amazing question. So they just it caught the attention of Nat Geo there, and I got to just work with their amazing social media team on some of their
Dope.
content and for South by Southwest, and I love them. They're really great, innovative crew there, and so that's where I met Nat Geo there. If God wanna, figure out something where we can work together, I'm here for it. But
Listen.
I enjoyed just being able to interact with other people in the same field with me, have those interactions. It's just doors kept opening, just by me being genuine and being curious about people and their stories. So that's what you
I
saw
love
with
it.
Nat Geo.
I love it. Super dope. And I feel this is just the beginning for you. Even more opportunity is coming, and I'm
I
excited to
appreciate
see
that.
your trajectory. So tell me about what led you to create the PTO Nomad. What was the story? 'Cause you said you were, I didn't know you were a news reporter. So tell me more.
Yeah, so I entered the workforce as a news reporter. I was a news reporter for 5 years. And I was not only a news reporter, I was an MMJ. So that means that you're a reporter without a videographer, without a cameraman. So
Oh,
you basically lug the camera around, you shoot, edit, voice, and you get ready. You
oh,
have to find your stories as well, write your stories, and then you have to get ready to do live shots or any kind of like anchoring or stand ups that you have to do on location or for the actual news
that
program.
sounds intense.
Oh, yes, it was so intense. And I was speaking to one of my reporter friends back in the day. Like, we were scrawny, we had eczema because we were so stressed out.
Stress.
And honestly, that it has changed a lot because when I was a reporter, like in 2000, like 14, 15, it was more like you couldn't wear your hair out. I couldn't wear my hair like this at all. I was told that. And also, that is when I developed I've been raised to work hard, like, and that your
Hmm.
work will speak for you, right? Which was the worst thing I was ever taught. So basically, I went into these places like I'm going to do the best, I'm going to do better than everyone. And what I established is this workforce type of personality that I can do everything and anything better than everyone. And what that did is cheapen my skill set to the point where they only had me on the as a news reporter on the entire nightly news. So I did all of the stories that 4 or 5 people would be doing in the morning. So what that
Wow.
established is that my worth was tied into how much I could put myself out there for others and ignore my needs. So that's where that
Yeah.
seed was watered in my career.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
from there, I had pretty much a nervous breakdown, and my grandmother died. My she's my god grandmother, but she died a week after because they were best friends, and I literally was shaken because I had not seen her, but I had moved to this area to be close to her, and I had not seen her in over a year. And so I was like, hmm, something's off. But the kicker for me to get out of news was when I went to their funerals and I came back and there was a note on my desk saying, I know that your grandmother didn't really die.
Hmm?
Yeah. This is like it's a very interesting field of people that are dealing with a lot of dark subjects and dark
Yeah.
things. Like even for me, I knew I had to get out of hard news because they would put me on murder and a lot of the
Mm,
hood stories because I was the
mm-hmm.
token. And I
Mm-hmm.
began to feel my empathy change for people because I just would see
Mm,
murder, murder, murder all the time.
yeah.
And basically, I think it desensitizes you if you allow it to. And I think that they just simply saw me getting days off. The person, whoever this
Yeah.
was, and I hope they're doing better now. But um, like, yeah, they saw that I was getting days off, and they were upset. And
Yep.
so,
And then considering all the work that you were doing
consider
too, now they have to do it. Mm-hmm.
that's exactly it. They were pissed off about that. But yeah, I got out of news and went into digital communications, which is something that I work in now. Um, so I started working for major hospitals, major organizations in academia, secondary academia, colleges, school of medicines. And I still took that same workhorse mentality on because like that's how I needed validation. I needed someone to tell me I did something right or I did something better or things like that. And I would never call out of work, always be in early, not to be confused with on time, but early. And and be in early and also leave late. But it was one day that I stepped outside of my shower getting ready to work, go to work. It was one day that I stepped outside and I was getting ready for work. I walked out of the shower and I felt a sharp pain in my abdomen, like almost like somebody had stabbed me with a knife. And I just keeled over and fell and woke up and looked around and was like, what is going on? And my first thought was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be late for work.
Mm,
Looked at my phone, saw my phone, everyone's texting me, where are you? You need to call out before you're sick. Then I'm like, oh no, I'll be there. I just, you know, I felt a little
wow.
ill. I didn't want to tell them everything that was going on, right? Because you don't feel comfortable in many toxic workplaces telling people what's really going on. And it's your privacy, but you
Yeah.
know that you're not supposed to tell them everything that's going on. And so I went to the emergency room. They took me back instantly. The nurse looked at me and was like, has anyone ever talked to you about the tumor in your abdomen? I was like,
What?
girl, you can't just like bring it up like I have a mole. Like you so
So
yeah,
casual,
but she was
right?
just like, have you has anyone looked into that? And she's like, I don't see it on your records. I had never heard about this. I mean, I would get abnormal pap smears, things like that, but the doctor would gaslight me. It's like, oh, it's just, whatever, things like that. But it ended up
Right.
being that I had like a basketball sized tumor in my abdomen and it
Oh my
needed to
goodness.
be looked into instantly to see if it was malignant or benign, and also that it was pressing on my organs and sucking blood. So not all tumors take in blood, but this one did. Went
Mm-hmm.
to oncology, waiting on the results. Ended up saying they need to do more tests, so I had to go home with that. But of course, I didn't go home. Where did I go? Into work.
Oh my goodness, Sharinda.
You
Wow.
know, they were texting me the whole time, like, when do you think you're gonna be in? So they already had told me that I need a major surgery and I'll be out for a few months. I thought it was a good time to go ahead and tell my supervisor that I needed to take this time off. They looked straight into my eyes and asked me, well, how long do you think you're going to be out? Because we need you to be here in the office.
Mm,
And that was when the epiphany actually set in that these people don't care anything about me. They don't care anything about my
yeah.
health. and they don't care about how hard I work in reference to me being a human. And that was the day
Yeah.
that I decided that I'm going to take all of my time off that I have hoarded, travel the world, use my FMLA, and then find a better, healthier job. And that is why I started the PTO Nomad, because I thought about it. I can't be the only woman that doesn't feel like she can't speak up for herself in these boardrooms, or take time off, or have to hide her pregnancy, or all of the above, or anything like that in these corporate workspaces. And not all women are as vocal as I am. I wanted to
Yep.
create a safe space for women, especially women of color in corporate America, to be able to gain the skills and the entitlement to their time, their wellness, their self care, and their peace. Like,
Yeah.
we are entitled.
Yeah.
We have ownership of that. And through the PTO Nomad, I encourage everyone in my community to take their time off, their paid time off,
Mm-hmm.
because over 400 million hours go left on the table in the United States.
Mm.
Women are
Jesus.
the ones that take 13% less time off than men, due to guilt, due to feelings of they're going to be left
Mm.
behind or their job is gone. And honestly, the only difference between us is like audacity. Like with men, like
Yeah.
audacity and
Yep.
genitalia, they feel entitled to their time.
Yep.
They know, oh, okay, I don't have to be perfect to apply for this job. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have all the skills.
Yep.
Women want to have all, we feel like we have to have all the skills and more to be able to
Yep.
be validated in a place in the
Yep.
world, but definitely in corporate America. So I say all that to
Yeah.
say the
For
PTO
sure.
Nomad is there to give a safe place for us to talk about the different issues that we're dealing with at our jobs, to brainstorm together, to learn corporate wellness, as well as travel the world through using our paid time off.
I love that. That is an incredible story. I did not know all of
What?
this. Um, I I want to circle back a little bit, and you said that you were essentially taught to, like, work the hardest. Let your work speak for itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think I can absolutely identify. I can relate to that. Do you think that you still have that mentality to any extent as you are, even as you have more autonomy in the PTO Nomad and in your corporate work? Do you feel that you still have that that as your foundation, I should say?
I don't. Although
Okay.
yes, I mean, a good pat on the back and some reward for what I did. Of course, I'm here for it. But no, the reason why I say that, sorry, that's so stupid. The reason why I
You're good.
say that is I've learned firsthand that it's not about how hard you. I learned firsthand it's not about how hard you work. It's about how you work. So it's about
Oh,
visibility. It's about
yeah.
appearing to work hard, not
Yep.
working hard. It's about working, what we
Yep.
say, smarter, not harder. So now
Yep.
I set hard boundaries around the work that I do. I don't I don't take on a task unless it has a beginning and an end, and that
Hmm.
my team knows that it has a beginning and an end. I will no longer take on a task that is ongoing or a part of that, because
Yeah.
the human mind, when we're used to seeing something get done, we forget about it. So when you take on those
Yeah.
tasks that are ongoing, that you have to do every few days, all the time, I find that people just expect them to happen, so they don't count that as you working, or they don't count that as you working hard. So that's a big boundary for me. My tasks have a beginning, middle, and an end. Even if maybe the
Hmm.
end isn't a year, I still know that it's not an ongoing project that does not have a specific goal or a specific time frame. Also,
Yeah.
I set boundaries with my calendar. I share my calendar with everyone, but it has blocks of times that I am unavailable, and they know they cannot come into my office. They cannot come and interrupt me. They can't overschedule me. They know that my time is valuable, and that I'm going to be using it to get the work that I need to get done, and that they don't have any kind of entitlement or ownership of my time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I set very strong boundaries about that, and I use my paid time off.
This is such like those 3 points you just made. There are such good tips for listeners, and I'm even taking notes
Thank
too,
you.
because I'm thinking about there are some tasks that are just reoccurring, and then I even think about the things that maybe my colleagues do that I just know that they're going to do it, so it becomes like background
Hmm.
noise, kind of, right? And I was the type that was taught, put your head down and do the
Exactly.
work, but no, you have to like be vocal about I did A, B, C, or D because people forget, and then you don't get the credit. And we need credit, you know
Yes.
what I mean? For so many reasons. If you want to advance in your career or whatever, you need to have proof of the thing that you did. So I really appreciate you
The
saying that.
squeaky
And
wheel. The squeaky wheel will always get the oil. I'm not saying to make an issue, but the worst thing that I was taught besides keep your head down and work is to be humble. The way that
mm-hmm.
we're taught to be
Yep.
humble is so toxic. It's basically to not
Yes.
allow other people to feel inferior to you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not what we're doing. We're not, as long as you're
Right.
not putting other people down, and as long as you're not
Mm-hmm.
stepping on other people, there is nothing wrong with letting people know what you do and what you do well. Because who else is going to
Yep.
tell them? Like, who
Yep.
else is going to let
Yep.
them know? They're worried about themselves. Humans are worried
Yep.
about themselves. So you have to take, I mean, we're, especially, and it sounds like you were taught to have like a lot of empathy, a lot of caring about other people, making sure you work with
Yes.
excellence and things like that.
Yes.
Nobody sees that
Yep.
if you don't let them know.
Nope. Yep, absolutely. Such good point. And I'm even thinking about how I'm trying to instill these things in my kids. I
Mm,
don't want them to have to learn late like I
mm,
did, right? To learn from now on, like I'm good at these things and it's okay. I don't have all the
right,
gifts, all the
right.
talents, but this is what I bring to the table, super, super important. Going back to taking all of the PTO, I love that you share at the top of the year how to essentially maximize the time off available based off of like our built-in
Right.
holidays. Um, so genius. I shared it with my husband. He was just like, "Duh, that makes so much sense. It's so smart." I'm just like, "Yeah, like she did the work for you. So just go ahead and plug your dates in ahead of time." Right?
Prepare the other.
So talk to me. Yes, and you have, and we appreciate you for it. Talk to me about were you always an avid traveler when you first stepped onto the scene in corporate America, or that was something that you just developed later on?
Funny story, I'll be very quick, but funny story about that. I actually am a military kid and I've been traveling since I was 2 months
Oh,
old. And we didn't stop
wow.
traveling until I was about 13. And
Hmm.
because of that, I said that I would never travel again when I'm an adult because I hated travel. I hated it. I left my
I
little
get
friends.
it.
I'm introverted. I have extroverted
Hmm.
gifts. I'm introverted. And like I would never get to keep my friends once I, got them or just have some kind of stability in my life. That's something that was
Yeah.
very important to me. And I did not feel like I had that growing up. So I was like, I'm never traveling again. And now look at me now.
Hmm.
So I actually didn't start traveling again until I was like 23, and
Hmm.
in corporate America because I was just so over it. But when I started seeing how they were treating me, like I knew I just felt like that was a good way to escape. I saw a lot of like other Black travelers putting their information out on Instagram, and it just was inspiring. And I took like a group trip with my friends for my birthday. It was like my 27th birthday. And
Hmm.
I was like, huh, I do this well. Like I plan trips well, and I really love to experience different types of cultures. It takes me out of my bubble. So that's when I
Yeah.
started realizing that travel was one of the best ways to immerse yourself into a new culture as well as get outside of the mundane of your life and give you a different perspective on life.
Yeah. What I find for me is like life is
Yeah.
hard, right? Like the every day there's always something, especially since 2020, like
Always.
there's just we're living through the unprecedented times,
Unprecedented.
right? And yes, and it's like just take me back to like the precedented times, please. But but I think travel always also gives you something to look forward to. It's super
Hmm.
important to have like, all right, if I can get through
Hmm.
like this month, like like I know I have this reward coming at the end of the month. I think that's super important
No,
too. So I
absolutely.
want to ask you, what have been your top three places that you visited so
Sure.
far?
And I'm going to actually talk to what you were saying about how planning travel actually helps you deal with it. There's actual studies that show that you get dopamine, more dopamine from planning a trip than actually being on the trip. So it actually is a very healthy
No,
way
wow.
to get some happiness, happy juice in your
Yeah.
life from just
Right,
planning that,
right.
looking forward to, and just being able to imagine yourself. It's like you're playing with your imagination again, like you're a kid. So
Yeah.
you're spot on. There's full research behind that, and that's why they tell you to start planning a trip right afterwards, because you're going to come home and have the post vacay blues, and that helps. But of course, you need
Right.
to make sure you know you love where you live too. You need. But
Yeah.
the top three places you said that I've been to,
Hmm.
ah,
So far.
that's so hard to ask a traveler. You should know better because there's so many aspects to it, so many ratings.
Okay.
But I would say, give me a scenario. Like, what do I need? What I need?
Okay. So I would say, okay, so I'll give you, okay, how about the top three most
Oh,
unexpected? Like, of course, you were looking forward to going there, but like the
yeah,
place blew you away more than you had anticipated.
sure.
Whether it's the culture, whether it's the food, whether it's just like visually beautiful.
Okay. No, I love that. Thank you for asking. I would
Hmm.
say Cuba, because of what
Hmm.
we're taught here, what Cuba is like, right? It was like I was
Yeah.
expecting some regime where people were holding me
Hmm.
to gunpoint as I get my customs, or something crazy, or that there was no happiness there, no
Right.
love. And honestly, that's one of the places where I felt most safe, most
Hmm.
loved,
Wow.
that I saw people that literally looked like me. Like, you can go throughout the diaspora and you can see people that are look like you, but these
Hmm.
look just like my aunts. Like I would see my aunt's face
Yeah.
in so many of these people walking around, and my mother's face and my face. It was like I never see people really look like me. I have a weird looking little face, but just to see people that look like me, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I just found that really
Hmm.
beautiful, and just the joy there of the people.
Yeah.
Second, surprising was for me Jordan, Aqaba, Jordan. That was really
Okay.
cool. I didn't expect it to be like a beach place. Like I don't know why I had in my mind like the Middle East is
Really?
like, well, that's Asia technically, but I had in my mind that it
Hmm.
looked a certain way, and it was really nice. The water was the clearest water I've ever seen, and that's on Caribbean. Like,
Wow.
well, yes, that's on Caribbean because it's clear, like water, like bottled water, not
Wow.
necessarily like a blue tint. Um,
Yeah.
and a third place, Costa Rica.
Okay.
That's
I keep
hard.
hearing
Wait,
good
wait,
things
wait.
about it.
Because then it's like Morocco too. I thought more. I'm gonna say Morocco because
Yeah.
of what we're taught. We're taught that in Morocco and in Egypt, that they don't consider themselves black, right? And they don't consider
Hmm.
themselves to
Hmm.
associate with people of African descent, even though it's in Africa. But
Right.
it was completely opposite. Like it was not that kind of vibe at all, and the smells and the the souks. It was just brain
Yeah.
altering type of travel, to hear my sister, but also to learn like how important lineage is to other cultures and how
Hmm.
important it is for us to, even if our lineage necessarily, everyone, we can't go back a whole 40 generations. It is important to start that
Mm-hmm.
lineage and that legacy with yourself so that someone can hold on to an identity or
Mm.
a piece of themselves later down the line. So that was something that I learned there.
Oh, that is a good point. Tell me more about that. How did you, what experience did you have there that made you hold on to that?
Well, it was how they would ask, who is your father? Like, who is your father? And because they expected you to be
Mm.
from there. And I would say, well, my father is this. He's like, okay, but who, like, where's your father from? Like, where's he from? And I'm like, he's from the United
Mm.
States. We're from the southern
Mm-hmm.
region, Louisiana, Georgia, these states. And they're like, but no, like, where is he from? Like, is he from like North Morocco,
Mm-hmm.
Sudan? Like, what is it? And then like they just could not
Right.
understand that there wasn't a pinpoint of where we're from.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we're from the United States, I mean that is a place, but it's
Right.
just everyone will equate Genesis to Africa, and so
Yeah.
when I would talk to them about that, it was just like, I'm so sorry. Like they just felt like immense like guilt or empathy about that. We did not know exactly where on the continent we were from. And from there,
Mm-hmm.
they were like, so, what, start telling stories. And I sat with some of the women and they told their stories. And that really helped me realize that even though we may not know exactly where we're from, these stories sounded familiar. These sayings sounded
Right.
familiar. Even like I'm
Yeah.
gonna say in East Africa when I went to Tanzania, they looked at the feet to see if you who is like whose baby. They can tell like it's your feet. They look at your feet. My family looked at
Wow.
each other's feet like, see, and she got feet just like her daddy. And it's just like things that like are passed down. Like so that's what
Mm-hmm.
awakened that to me of that importance of legacy
Yeah.
and what it and how it looks different for everyone.
Yeah. I find that really interesting. When I look online, I see like similar stories that you're telling. People go to the continent and or other parts of the world, not even
Right,
just the continent, and people don't understand that African Americans have been here for like
right.
400 years, like
Several
several
generations.
generations. I find it mind-boggling that the rest of the world doesn't know
Hmm.
that. I thought,
I think it's
I mean,
newer.
the slave trade, like, it's
Hmm.
interesting. That's I feel like the slave trade like
It
changed the
changed the world.
world, right? But nobody was really taught that. No, the
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I just find it
No.
mind-boggling how that is just not talked about
No, I
elsewhere,
get it.
um, as it should. Yeah, it's
So
very
what is that? How does
interesting.
that make you feel like
Um,
when like with that kind of thought?
it's complicated for me. Like kind of like
Mm.
frustrated, but
Yeah.
not because it's just ignorance.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
malicious, right? Um, just confused, but also frustrated at the powers that be. I think it's on
Yes.
purpose, right? Let's keep these folks
Yes.
separated.
Absolutely.
um,
Weakening the
so
cord.
yeah, yes, exactly. And I could even talk about how the every so often, every couple months, there's these diaspora wars on the internet. I'm just like, what are y'all
Oh,
doing? Like, we
yes.
are the
We are the
same. Like,
same. Oh,
stop it.
yeah. Yeah. That was wild
Like,
around Black History Month. That it didn't. Some people were saying it didn't. That, that it didn't
uh,
include the Caribbean, and I was like, wow. But they just
oh man.
it's it's all systemic. It's all very, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
even goes back to even in corporate
Mm-hmm.
America. You have to move in a system type of mentality, not just
Yeah.
point blank black and white. Like, what are the
Yep.
mechanisms behind it? Like, the goal. The goal is to prevent you from
Yep.
getting more money or uniting or
Yep.
feeling empowered. So what are they doing to create these type of things? Like, um, you mind if I
Yep.
tell one more story? Did I? Okay.
Yeah, no, I love your
um,
stories.
when I was walking around, so I love talking to like tour guides that are like slick historians. Like they're the new oracles to me. I feel as though
Hmm.
tour
Hmm.
guides are the new oracles, the ones that really care about history. And I was speaking with one of the tour guides in Zanzibar, in town, in Stone Town. And we were talking about because there's a big slave trade that was done in East Africa that we do not hear about, we do not talk about. Like there was a huge slave trade of people coming over to East Africa. And Zanzibar was literally a spice island. There's even slave dungeons in Zanzibar. There is plantations. There are plantations in Zanzibar, and it's really. I suggest if you go to, go there, of course, go to
Hmm.
the beaches, but also learn about the history of it. It's rich, 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 rich in history. And I was speaking to one of the historian tour guides, and we just sat down in one of the churches and we're just talking, which is what I love to do when I travel. I love to talk to the people there and have conversations, even if I have to get an interpreter or a
Hmm.
translator. And I asked him, why do you think Europeans are so good at conquering and taking and making things their own? And he sat there for a second and he looked at me and he said, when you live your whole life without resources, you have to start learning how to get those resources and get them quickly. People of African descent, we lived in a plentiful land. Africa is
Yep.
so rich
Yep.
with so many resources, from the people, their skill sets,
Yep.
to the ground
Self.
itself.
Yep.
And when we are used to growing up in that kind of atmosphere, we don't feel like we have to take. We don't feel like we have to, like, not saying there weren't any, but
Hmm.
it's not like a thing that has to be taught because
There's plenty
you
to go
respect the
around.
land, you
Yeah.
respect
Hmm.
there's plenty to go around,
Hmm.
and you have your own culture and customs that you don't feel like you need to even, take from others.
Hmm.
But he was like, Europeans, their land was rocks and
Yep.
grass. It
Yep.
wasn't plentiful. There wasn't ores that could make
Yeah.
generations of wealth
Yep.
there. So they had to become, for lack of better words, creative.
Yeah.
And this type of mentality trickles into almost all of the systems we have
Yep.
now, but especially like corporate America and the workforce is take what you don't have so
Yep.
that you can continue to survive.
Yep.
Not
Just me
don't and
survive. Yep.
just me surviving, and
Hmm.
also not even learning, having to gain the skills yourself is wasting time, like
Hmm.
as in like
Yeah.
power struggle. It
Yeah.
loses power struggle time. So that was something that woke me up. It's like, ah, so that makes a lot of sense why we're looking at oppressive people or oppressive parties through our lens,
Hmm.
and like, why would they do that? But it's like,
Yeah.
that's why they do that. And that's how I can learn how to protect myself if I understand
Mm.
how they look at me and how they look at the world. And
Yeah.
that's what opened up my mind to changing my viewpoint on how I deal with oppressive systems.
Mm. So it's like you learn it and then you learn to maneuver within it, essentially. Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Ooh.
And you learn what things are important and what things can harm you. Like
Oh.
pure grit. They
Hmm.
tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That doesn't do anything.
No.
That's not,
We
no.
ain't got bootstraps.
Smarter.
Like, yeah.
No
And it, and
bootstraps. No
and if we
bootstraps.
do, like that just takes so much time to like figure out how to do it. Like, yeah, and then here comes
Yeah.
that.
You
Hmm.
find the person that makes that's so. And I'm not saying this is the right way to go about it. Please don't excuse me for being flippant about it. But it's like you find the person that is desperate enough that
Hmm.
if you've made desperate enough to make the boots
Hmm.
for you,
Hmm.
to give so at such a cheap cost.
Yep.
that you can take those boots and you don't have to strap them up yourself because somebody else did it on their own backs because about a desperation of systems that were put in place.
Yeah. Hmm.
That was hard for me
Ooh.
to
Yeah. And
learn. But
honestly, I feel like this is a conversation that we can have for hours because it's just
I'm sorry
no,
because
no,
we've been going
no,
on.
no, no, no. Don't apologize. This is good. I say that because, like, to your point, that mentality is entrenched and ingrained in the foundation of everything in our, like, in our society. You
Mm-hmm.
know, not just
Mm-hmm.
corporate America, but even academia, even our healthcare system.
Absolutely.
It's just
Absolutely.
who.
Absolutely.
You know what I was thinking about when
Mhm.
you were mentioning how when you worked as a news reporter, how you started to feel yourself become like desensitized because you're talking about murder all the time. It makes me think about
Mhm.
how just I mentioned earlier, since 2020, there's always been something happening, like something big
Always.
happening. And I felt myself becoming frustrated because I looked around and I feel like everybody else is doing just fine and I'm not. Like I feel a lot, right? And I was supposed to share that thought. Dang it. I don't know why I said
Comparison.
that.
Comparison. Comparison.
Yeah.
Thief of joy.
Yeah.
Comparison. But I mean, even just looking around because we didn't know like what was going to happen. Like I remember like, are we dying? Like, are we about to die? Like,
Right.
so
Is
it
this
was
the
just
end?
like you wanted to make the most of what you could, but then you were crippled by the situation.
Hmm.
Like you're immense, like not crippled, but like as in
Yeah.
you're
Like you're.
held down and
Hmm.
by the weight of the situation itself. So I
Hmm.
get it.
Yeah. So talk to me about how, like, what is your self care practice as somebody who is constantly traveling and doing a lot of things, right? How do you come back home to center, like home within Sharinda?
Mm. For me, self care is surrounding myself with people that I know love me and
Hmm.
I know respect my boundaries.
Hmm.
I am introverted, so boundaries have always been ingrained in me. I will always take my time to refill, to decompress. That's always been natural to me. But I didn't have boundaries around the people that came into my space.
Hmm.
And that is what's newer for me is that I refill myself with good vibes, good people. I set very intentional time. I'm very intentional with my time.
Hmm.
So me and my girlfriends, we have a set calendar together that we share times that we're going to get together. We have to get together at least once a month. We speak at least once a week. And it's just making sure that we have that community around us. So for me, it's looking outward
Hmm.
because I know that for my own self care, I do meditation, I read, I take time to myself in my Bible, and just I dreamscape. Dreamscape is really big for me. I sit there and just dream about all the things and visualize what I want my life to be. But take honestly the feeling behind having more control over my time, just even tricking myself to feel that way has immensely changed my mental health because I don't feel like someone's dictating my life anymore.
Mm, yeah,
That's my self care.
I
And
love that.
travel
Of
always, but
course, of
you know,
course, of course. I like
travel.
the dreamscape piece. I don't
Yes.
think we most adults don't take enough time to really just like daydream and like put your dreams out there. We're just so used to being in the grind of every day that
Mm-hmm.
we lose sight of the bigger picture. And I think that's really that's a beautiful reminder for us. So.
Absolutely. Our inner child is who gets it done. I mean, we are grown up selves, we navigate through this world and we deal with the social norms, but our inner child is really who's going to get the work done.
Truly. Truly. Thank you so, so much, Renda. So tell me, before we go, where can the people find you? What all do you have coming up down the pipeline? How can we connect? All of those good things.
Sure. So you all can find me on the PTO Nomad at the PTO Nomad. like paid time off on all social channels, on the web, on anywhere you can find digitally the PTO Nomad. You'll find me, as well as my membership community on my networks called the Break Rooms, the Work Wives Collective. So that's a good place where we come in and we, bounce ideas off of each other. Also, I am a public speaker, so I like to come into different organizations, different jobs, speak to different groups, and talk to them about work life balance and why it's important to our health and our legacy. Also, I have a podcast. I have two podcasts that are going to be launching in Q3. The first one, Deep Roots, is about traveling the diaspora, African diaspora, and learning more about our brothers and sisters across the African diaspora, and also the global beauty standards that's all around the world that impact us as a whole. And my second podcast is called The Break Room. The Break Room is where we're going to be getting a little petty, a little fun, but it's going to be good. It's going to be juicy, some tea, talking about what it's like working as a woman or just working in general as a person in corporate America, as entrepreneurs, as having a side hustle and remote work. Just figure out how to work better. And just connect and lift each other up and learn the skills that we need to navigate the workplace in the United States. And I have a documentary that I am trying to shoot and get out here. Yeah, it's been like my baby for a while. We've had a few hiccups, but it should be out by the end of the year. And it's going to be focused on global beauty standards as well as traveling the world, finding connections with everyone through global beauty standards.
Oh, I'm excited for all that you have coming down the pipeline. I'm going to put all of your links down below in the show notes. Please go ahead and follow, support, visit the website. I'm going to get the Mighty Links Network, the link to your membership as well. So I put that in the description as well.
Perfect.
All of the things, if you need a hostess with the most as a public speaker to come to your organization and shake things up in a good way, Shrinda's your girl. So I'll put that down below as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Shrinda. I appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been amazing. Blessings to you and everything you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.